Today we are going to review the 11 goal check-in. Remember that imagery creates a mental picture in the reader's mind. Imagery is composed of words the author chooses to activate one of the 5 senses in the reader. We often refer to imagery as sensory details. Remember that sensory details activate one of the 5 senses. Thus, sensory details or sensory language is the same as imagery. Now let's take a look at the excerpt from Sandra Cisneros' Vignette 11 that was on the goal check-in assessment. The first step we were asked to complete was to highlight the sensory details or imagery and label the sense in the margin. That is what we will do now. In this excerpt, the speaker is describing her feelings and actions after the teacher, Mrs. Price, forces her to put on the red sweater that she hates in front of her entire class. The first sensory detail that I notice is I'm crying like I'm 3 in front of everybody. I put my head down on the desk and bury my face in my stupid clown sweater arms. I notice this because it's activating my sight sense, so I will annotate that in the margin. The speaker continues with imagery. My face all hot and spit coming out of my mouth. These are different senses. My face all hot activates the touch or feeling sense. I can tell this because the speaker describes her face as feeling hot. Those words activate my touch or feeling sense. Spit coming out of my mouth describes how the speaker's mouth looks like. Thus, this is activating my sight sense. As the speaker continues, she begins to activate our auditory or sound sense. The speaker states, "I can't stop the little animal noises from coming out of me." This is activating the sound sense. Now the speaker will move on to how this crying is making her feel, her body feel, until there aren't any more tears and it's just my body shaking, like when you have the hiccups, and my whole body hurts, like when you drink milk too fast. Notice that the speaker utilizes 2 similes to help the reader understand how she is feeling. If I wish to push up to a 4, I could annotate these similes. I could also annotate the repetition by adding 2 underlines underneath any word or phrase that is repeated. The speaker's repetition of the word I shows us that she is focused internally on herself. This also reveals her fear that her classmates are also focusing on her and her crying spell. Now we will push towards a mood analysis. Remember that mood analyzes how the author's word choice causes the reader to feel. I have chosen the tone word sympathetic. In order to add this to my claim sentence or my main idea sentence, I put that word sympathetic as well as the word mood in a statement. The mood created by Sandra Cisneros within her Vignette 11 is sympathetic. Now I know I need to go back into the excerpt and find a direct quote that causes me to feel sympathetic. Again, I must prove that the author's word choice has caused me as the reader to feel sympathetic. I have chosen the direct quote, "Cannot stop the little animal noises from coming out of me." In order to place it within my paragraph, I have to add my own words in front of those sentences to make it into a complete sentence and to help my reader understand the portion of the vignette that I have pulled this out of. I have underlined my own words in blue and bracketed the direct quotes in purple. So my paragraph now reads, "The mood created by Sandra Cisneros within her vignette 11 is sympathetic. While the speaker is crying on her birthday, she states she, quote, cannot stop the little animal noises from coming out of me," end quote. Now, within the link of my paragraph, I must explain how my direct quote proves my inference that the mood is indeed sympathetic. I must do this in at least 2 sentences. Within my link, the first thing I mention is that my direct quote is an auditory image. That means that it activates the sound sense. When I went back to choose my quote, I looked carefully at my annotations and chose one of the images I had already annotated. Also notice that I have circled the word sympathize, as that is my inference that the mood is sympathetic. Remember that the goal here was to explain how my evidence proves my inference right. So my link states, Cisneros utilizes auditory imagery to allow the reader to hear the childlike sobs of the speaker. The image of this young girl crying as a child in front of her class, and on her birthday no less, brings the reader to sympathize with her sadness. We wish we could support the speaker and end her sobbing. My link ended up being 3 sentences, so I could clearly prove how the fact that the speaker is making these little animal noises helps me to sympathize with her. The tone prompt within this 11 goal check-in asked us to analyze the speaker's tone towards the sweater itself. My inference statement, or my main idea statement, states, within Sandra Cisneros' vignette 11, the speaker's tone towards the sweater is hateful. My inference is towards the end of this statement, that the speaker's tone towards the sweater is hateful. Again, I was being asked how the speakers feel about the sweater, or what is her attitude towards the sweater, and I have chosen to prove hateful. As I go back into the vignette to find evidence of this, I will first look at the imagery I have annotated, focusing on the imagery the speaker utilizes to describe the sweater itself. The direct quote I have chosen is "stupid clown sweater arms." This is sight imagery the speaker utilizes in order to describe her sweater. As the writer of this analysis paragraph, I must put words in front of this small quote to make it make sense for my reader, to create a complete sentence. Thus, I have added this phrase I am underlining in green. So my evidence statements now states, as the speaker begins to cry, she claims the sweater has, quote, "stupid clown arms." In the link portion of my analysis paragraph, I must now explain how my quote proves my inference right. Thus, I must explain in at least 2 sentences how the quote, "stupid clown sweater arms," proves that the speaker's tone towards the sweater is hateful. Before we review my link, I have circled in green the words that tie back to my claim or my inference that the speaker's tone towards the sweater is hateful. Notice in the link that I use the word hate again and the word ugly. Remember, my goal is to prove how the quote, "stupid clown arms," proves the speaker feels hateful towards the sweater. Thus, my link reads as follows. The speaker utilizes negative diction, that is, negative word choices, to describe the red sweater she is wearing. She hates the sweater so much that she calls it stupid. Notice I have placed the word stupid in quotation marks, as that is a word I have borrowed from the text. The young girl goes as far as to express how ugly she believes the sweater to be by emphasizing the stretched out nature of the arms. Notice that I have used one direct quote in this analysis paragraph. Even though I mentioned the word stupid twice, it is from my original direct quote. As you continue to create your analysis paragraphs, be sure you always include one direct quote. Each paragraph should have its own direct quote. If you want to move on to a new direct quote, begin a new analysis paragraph. To review, today we have discussed how sensory language or sensory details is the same as imagery. We then reviewed how to locate imagery within an excerpt and annotate that imagery. We then shifted gears to analysis writing. We started with mood analysis. Mood analyzes how the author's word choice causes the reader to feel. We chose the word sympathetic for our mood word. We pulled out the direct quote, "cannot stop the little animal noises from coming out of me," from the imagery we had annotated in the previous slide. We then explained in the final section of the paragraph how our direct quote proved our inference correct. Finally, we analyzed the speaker's tone or attitude towards the red sweater. We decided that the tone was hateful. We pulled out the direct quote, "stupid clown arms," which was imagery for the sweater. We then described how that quote proved our inference correct.